and you can start posing whatever. So let's say you're done posing your
Hey everyone, in this beautiful, completely unnecessary video, I will be showing you how I made this thumbnail. Disclaimer, I only showing you my technique, which might not be the most comfortable for everyone, but it works for me. In this video, I'll also show you the difference between working with shadows and without. So, for me, everything starts like this. First thing I do is open up Roblox Studio, look for the models and skins I want to use in the thumbnail. For that I use the plugin right here. I already have some skins ready, so instead of searching for new ones, I'll just show you exactly how I export them. And also, if you ever need a thumbnail, you can always message me on Twitter, and the link to my Twitter will be in the description. I export them as an object. I do this specifically so I also get the accessories like hair and other items, and don't forget to export the map you're planning to use for posing your character. Also, Roblox Studio does have a pretty convenient plugin called Blender Animation that can export rigs with the skin already applied, but it usually doesn't work correctly, and it's mainly used for adding animation back into Roblox Studio, which is not what we're doing here. After exporting the model as an object, I move into Blender, and I already have a scene set up, so I don't have to redo everything from scratch, but I'll try to explain everything as we go. For clean posing, I use a plugin called Starter Rigs. Link will be in the description. It doesn't always fit every project, but for a thumbnail like this, it's perfect. Thumbnails usually use the blocky rig specifically because it looks the cleanest, at least in my opinion. After adding the rig, here's what I do. I find the folder where I export the skin as an object, grab the skin texture from there, and apply it for the rig. That's how I bring the skin into Blender. Then I import the character object into Blender to bring over the hair and accessories. To select multiple things, hold shift and click. Pretty simple. Then I move the hair and accessory into place so they look right. As you can see, after moving them, they're not actually attached to the rig yet. So what do we do about that? Attach them, hold shift and select the object you want to link to the rig. Enter pose mode, hold shift again and click the bone you want to parent it to. Then press Ctrl P, bone. And now, as you can see, the object is parented to the rig and move with it. Do the same thing for the hair and other accessories. This plugin also makes it really convenient to swap out face expressions. You can find those online or draw them yourself if you're a genius, that is. I just use free packs from the internet. Honestly, if I find the links, I drop those in the description too. To save time, I've already done most of the posing, just not completely. The pose is entirely up to you and what the job requires. I can't really guide you here because it all depends on the project, but for a thumbnail like this, I recommend making the character who's supposed to feel strong, dominant, and the coolest, make him bigger, so they come across as more powerful. I intentionally left one character without a skin to show you a problem I kept running into early on and couldn't figure out for the longest time. Okay, so I have the Roblox noob texture and I apply it to the character, but for some reason it maps onto him in a completely weird way, and it's not obviously why. Well, let me explain. The issue is that when you imported the skin in Roblox Studio using this plugin, you're selected R15 instead of R6, because this rig is treated as R6, not R15, which causes this bug. It easily fixes by just re-exporting the model in the correct format. The Roblox noob also looks too small, like he's not actually close to the camera, so I'll adjust that a bit. Now we start the render. I want to remind you, right now I'm doing the no shadow version as an example of what not to do. Shadows are always important because they show depths in the thumbnail, so they might not always fit, especially if you're going for something incredibly bright, but you should always think about shadows. This is also the basic STR sky I grabbed from the GFX Reno pack. Link will be also in the description. You can set it up however you like, but I still recommend leaning towards an HDRA backgrounds for most works. For this particular project, these settings are fine. Again, set everything up based on your own project, but one thing I would generally recommend, don't make your renders too bright. I don't mean avoid bright colors or a bright sun necessarily, I mean the kind of brightness that just kills all your colors. Also, the character has these weird white highlights on them, that's from a low roughness value. I'd recommend increasing it, because those lines end up looking like a failed attempt of smoothing something. After rendering, I recommend adding a hue saturation value node to adjust those. It really does matter and saves you some work in Photoshop. For the render itself, I recommend using the AGX display. You can use Filmic or Default too, but that's personal preference. For me, AGX is simply the best. And this is what my compositing setup looks like. Always odd denoising if you don't want a super pixelated images. After that you can render and save. For compositing, you'll mainly need these specific render outputs. Enable all Cryptomatte outputs as well as emission and ambient occlusion. Those are the most important. I won't be using emission on this render, but I think the name speaks for itself. It renders only the emissions, which is super useful when you want precise control over glowing elements. For ambient occlusion, I render it either in standard or raw, but I usually go with raw because of how nicely it shows shadows under hair, between legs and so on. Now, the most important thing I recommend everyone remember for your own convenience. Cryptomatte. This is an incredible feature that lets you select different parts of your thumbnail with perfect accuracy without any hassle. In Cryptomatte, add your objects, arms, legs, head, everything. Once you made your selections, save them as is. You'll need this later. Do the same for any other characters you plan to edit and for the environment, since you'll be modifying the two. Move on to Photoshop. You can use standard YouTube template as 1080p. You don't really need anything fancier unless the client specifically asks. To hide the blue whites, press Ctrl H. I don't actually need them visible, but they help me snap object into place, so I'll leave them on. After adding all your layers, move the Cryptomatte layers to the bottom and hide their visibility so they don't get in the way. Move the ambient occlusion layers to the very top and set it blend mode to overlay. You can adjust the opacity to text. You can already see how much the image changed. I also recommend adding a levels adjustment on top of the AO layer for more control. First problem, these cross marks are way too bright and blown out. Now you can use the Cryptomatte. We select the arena and place it beneath the ambient occlusion layer, reduce the exposure and optionally boost the contrast as you want, and also to open camera raw, press Ctrl+A. This filter also is the most important tool in Photoshop for thumbnail like this, honestly in general. For now we can set aside the lighting adjustment for a moment and move to something faster, adding cloud, which most thumbnails makers do. I have a whole cloud pack ready. To select multiple layers at once, hold Ctrl and click the small thumbnail icon, then hold Shift Ctrl and click the others. After selecting everything, invert the selection to isolate the sky. Convert it to the smart object for easier editing, then go into camera raw and adjust it to your taste. Then just place your cloud, don't go overboard. 3 or 4 different shapes is plenty. Select all clouds layers using Ctrl and do a mesh layer to combine them into one. Add a Gaussian blur somewhere around 3-6 pixels, definitely not more than that. Then using Cryptomatte, select the character on the right and cut him to a new layer. Add the inner shadow, place it around the shoulders and head, look clean in my opinion. Adjust size, distance and choke however you want. I set it to what I like. If you want, you can copy my setting, but it's up to you. For quality, there are really only 2 options that look good to me. Try them out and see which fits your style better. Do the same for the noob on the right, but with different inner shadow settings. I'll increase the sky blue slightly since something bothering me out, and the colors also a bit meh. If the sky colors isn't working for you, you can either adjust it in Blender or use the sky from the GFX Reno pack, which has some generally nice options. Honestly, I'll probably do exactly that. Through camera raw, adjust it however you want. Now this sky is generally perfect, honestly. These white lines are really distracting and don't fit. You can remove them entirely in Blender, but if you don't want to render from scratch, you can just reduce them through camera raw and at the same time fine-tune the character further. As you can see, the difference is incredible and it's starting to look like something actually solid. Okay, I want to add a bit more depth to the right character so he feels more grounded in this scene. I'm using the object tool, select his arm that's closer to the camera and cut it to a new layer. Then add a new inner shadow to it. Now I will play around with camera raw and shadows a bit more. Everything else stays the same for now. Now I want to add a glow effect on the left character so he pops a little more. Make it just base red and adjust it. Then we do a quick easy HB bar. You can add a dark inner shadow on the HB bar to keep it from looking too bright and make it more visible. We need to add the arrow, and how could we not? It's the most important thing. And thumbnail is done. But you know, it feels something off, and here comes a big problem. the thumbnail looks too flat because of the lack of shadows. Even if you try to bring them out with levels without actually rendering shadows, they won't be as visible as you'd want. To create shadows, we go back into Blender, add sun, in my case even 2, and position them so shadows fall perfectly across the scene. We basically render just the shadow. Then using Cryptomatte, we select only the background and replace our current one with the version that has shadows. Then using levels, we boost the shadow visibility, and now this piece is finally complete with proper shadows. And here's the comparison. For me, it's two different thumbnails just because of shadows. And guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. More videos coming in the future.